Yeah, well, I'm going to start this one, Liam, a little bit different than some of the other ones we've done. I suppose to not remind you, but obviously the things I remember about you as a kid, um, particularly because as a father of one of the boys, you had that boys group that you started, you and Matthew as head students, and you
Yeah.
mentored, I think it was 5 boys.
Yeah.
All of those boys have grown into really wonderful young men, which is, and I remember when you left school, you gave one of them your blazer, your head student
Yeah. Yeah.
blazer. Um, so just, yes, that just sort of probably starting with that kindness side. And as a young man, you were always sort of seen as a really wonderful student. You also are one of the main reasons we wanted to start this guest speaker thing because when you were just talking earlier about when you came to class, but I sent some pictures to Grace. I had this photo of you doing a Zoom meeting with some kids,
Yeah.
and I think there were 5 kids sitting there. 4 of them and another one who got to watch it later all went to med school from our school, and all have passed. Whoop, oh, there it is.
There you go. During
Um,
COVID.
and so I set you in this room, and I just left you to it. And like I say, all of those kids sitting there, bar one, are now what they must be third year. And I've actually got one of those kids. It's Anna, second to the left. She was the head girl at the stage. She's coming on next week.
Oh,
And she,
cool.
as soon as I contacted her to say, can we get a perspective of you? I've got Liam, who's is at seventh year, and I want to hear his perspective and his advice. But I also wanted to contrast it with Anna. So I just wanted to remind you of that because that was when I saw you in a room with those kids, and then the other picture was this crazy diagram which I was
Yeah.
so proud of in my room because it was like, um, yeah, it sort of was like the stuff I used to do that
Like
people love.
yours, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but the kids were captivated. And so I see this idea that it wouldn't matter whether a kid went to a careers advisor or a really caring teacher and said, look, I want to go to med school. What do I do? And we actually know nothing, to be
Yeah.
fair. All
Yeah.
we would have done is gone, oh, that'll be hard. Or, the old chestnuts. And I'm going to run past you later some of the myths to see whether you think they're true.
Yeah,
But
sure.
like I say, I really do feel this is one of those guest speaker roles where there are kids genuinely thinking on that precipice of do I, don't I? And you're the only one who can help. I don't believe some of us adults have a chance. So anyway, that's sort of where I wanted to start it. We normally start with you just reflecting a little bit at school,
Yeah.
just all memories of school. So some of those kids sitting there will go, yeah, okay, they were the subjects. Yeah, I get that. So, but I obviously want to very quickly get into the med stuff. But yeah, your
Yeah.
reflections, high school, and
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
yeah,
again, thanks for those kind words. That was that was nice coming from you. So
yeah,
yeah, so we could talk about high school. So obviously was at Cambridge High School for all 5 of my high school years. And I know that you sent me some sort of prompts to think about my high school experience. And I guess if we talk about the subjects that I liked, just to start off with, just to kind of get an idea, I absolutely hated English. I dropped it the second I could. I mean, I did level 1 and that was it. And because of that, actually in university, I had to do a catch-up paper, like a special paper that no one else had to do, just me, because I didn't do all the English courses.
so it did come and bite you at some
It
point.
did, yeah, it did, but that's all right. I was worth it. So got rid of that, and I was actually like quite, I don't know, good at, but enjoyed maths and the sciences. But funnily enough, I didn't like biology at all. I couldn't stand it. I thought it was particularly boring in high school.
Can I
It
just
was just,
clarify? So there's going to be kids sitting there thinking you couldn't write. But I
yeah,
just want to clarify, obviously, you and Grace are sitting there. Both of you got skulls in geo.
yeah.
And so you could definitely write. So it wasn't an English as in you didn't particularly like writing. So I just want to clarify to some kids that, yeah, that was not the case. It was just more of a
Yeah,
subject-based thing.
yeah. I just didn't like it. I just hated the subjective nature of it. I thought something was really good, and the teacher's like, "No, this is not what we're looking for," and
Okay.
yeah, just never never got around to it. But Yeah, interesting. I actually didn't like biology, and that's kind of like what, medicine mostly is human biology, right? It's kind of what you're taught in those preclinical years. And I didn't like it at all. I really like the maths and like the chemistry and physics, which you'd kind of think would be more engineering based. So, I mean, and also in med school, I've known a whole lot of people that done a whole lot of different subjects, arts, all these other kind of things. You don't have to just be interested in biology or things like
So
that.
is
So,
there a myth that there will be teachers telling kids when they say, I want to go to med school, you've got to do all of these sciences? Is that true or not?
no, no, it's definitely not true. I mean, I think it's really good to have done biology and chemistry because of the core papers that we'll talk about later that are part of Auckland's like med school program.
Yeah.
But if you haven't done them, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, you should like be able to do them and enjoy them, or else you probably won't like medicine that much. Yeah. But yeah, like it's not the end of the world if you haven't done it.
Okay.
Definitely. And then I guess thinking back to the very start of high school in year nine, there was like those two auxiliary classes. There was like the very top one, and then the one below it. I was in that like second one, and Mrs. Webb, who was the deputy principal at Cambridge High School, she was our maths teacher. And I remember I used to think I was really good at maths. I didn't really study too hard, and then got a few merits. I was like, oh, this is not what I was looking for. I was looking for those excellences. And she actually like she sat down and she talked with me, and she's like, you've got a bit of talent here, but if you don't apply yourself, you'll never really get anywhere. You'll never actually achieve what you want. And that actually was kind of like a big turning point for me. After that, I just started studying lots, and then got really good grades, moved up to the top class in year 10, and then by the end of year 10, I topped the whole of year 10. So that was like a key moment that kind of changed the way that I thought about
That's cool.
academics. Yeah, and that
Yeah.
like it's not necessarily, your intellect. I mean, it is to a degree, your natural intellect, but you really just have to apply yourself and work smart and hard, and you can do a lot of things that, you didn't necessarily think were possible.
It's interesting you're touching already on that determination thing. It was like when I said to you prior to the Geo School exam, I'd actually talked to that very same teacher, Miss Webb, and said, "Oh, Liam might not get it because he doesn't particularly like his writing."
Yeah,
Did and you said to me a few days ago, I quite like people saying I can't do something because I'll go do
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And maybe that's that nature too that will come up later at med school. There is an element of competition and determination.
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's a huge part of medicine and getting in at least is just working quite hard. And like back to the high school stuff, like with that like determination, I kind of got to the point where I'd read so many of these NCA practice exams and the markings guides that when I was actually going in to do the real exams, I could like see what the marker wanted, like point for every question, just because you'd read so many of these guides that kind of had like a pattern to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you went through and you were getting endorsement after endorsement, but would you have said you were like, you know, were you super, super clever? Were you just really good? Like, where did you, so, yeah, because there is again this myth you've got to damn, almost be a genius.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think I'm not dumb. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't think I'm the smartest person in every room I walk into or something like that either. Like and if you look around medical school, like there's a lot of people that weren't probably the smartest in every room they were in
Cool.
high school, primary school, that kind of stuff. Like they just got there through, you know, hard work, determination,
Yep.
sticking it out. It's probably like sports. It's probably like, if you look at the high level sports and compare them, their high school journeys, these high level athletes probably weren't necessarily the number one best
No.
athlete there, but they stuck it out. They worked harder. They, did all these other things that carried them through, not necessarily just purely talent based.
Have you
Good.
the phrase, Liam, I think you might have, where it says hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard? Have you heard that
Yeah,
one?
absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like that applies here where it's like you can be talented and work hard. So that's the perfect combination. That's where you land. But I feel like that's a bit of a theme there when you had Miss Webb tap you on the shoulder and be like, apply yourself because you have talent, but you're not necessarily giving it the oomph. when that came together, you were off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, discipline is like super important, especially like in first year. I saw that a lot. There's a lot of people that like in my halls that were trying to get into medicine, but they're like, oh, this is, after 2 or 3 weeks, there's a lot of work. Maybe I'll just tone it back. And then once you get behind like that, it's pretty hard to keep it going. So really just being able to like keep that work up is good. But one thing I've also learned is that it's not just about like hard work in and of itself. It's like working smart. You got to find ways that can make your work efficient and actually, you know, worthwhile, not just like pure grunt work. It's thinking about things before you like set it in place so that everything you do is like purposeful and efficient rather than just completely the opposite of that.
So can I ask, Liam, when during this high school journey did you start considering careers or pathways out of school or study?
Yep.
Where did you go for help with that? Or was medicine just like always there? Because I don't remember those, like where you were. So yeah, how do you remember that idea of I'm here, but I've got to go to here, and how did that work for you? Because I think that's important for kids to hear as well.
Yeah, sure. So when I was in primary school, I thought I would be interested in being a doctor, and I didn't, particularly know why. I just thought I was, kind of good at science, and some people had told me that might be something I'd be interested in or good at. So I thought, yeah, maybe that's the case. But then I remember as I went through high school, I thought maybe I want to be a lawyer. But to be fair, at that time I was watching a lot of Suits, so could have been influenced that way. I actually went out and saw a few lawyers, saw what they did, and I decided it probably wasn't what I wanted to do. And I
So you
did,
were proactive enough to start. You were obviously really early on, knowing
yeah,
that it needed to be a decision one day, and you were, yeah, making an effort.
yeah, absolutely. Like I feel like it's really important to think about the future and not just let it come to you. Think about things, make a decision about what you want to do. So I went out and saw like a GP practice, kind of like talked to a few of the doctors there. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is definitely something I could be interested in. So that's kind of like as far as my decision process went. I wasn't like super in depth looking at all these other things I could do. But it's funny though, because when you go to med school, like there's like a first year entry, so you can try for 1 year, and if you don't get in, then you can do a whole nother degree. And I decided if I didn't get in after that first year, I wasn't going to do a whole science degree and then apply again. I was just going to switch into engineering, which was the other interest that I had.
Okay. Okay. So you just literally applied from school straight to med. You didn't dabble with lots of other unis or lots of other, because you went to Auckland, obviously.
Yeah.
And was Auckland the main application you went?
Yeah, so there's two med schools. There's Otago and Auckland Uni, and maybe I don't know in a few years might be Waikato, depending on what happens with all this political stuff. But I got a big scholarship to Auckland, so that kind of swayed my way to
What was that?
Auckland. That was
High
the
achievement.
the top achiever scholarship. It was what, like, I can't remember how much it was. It was 5,000 cash, and then they paid for the halls, so it's like 20 grand.
Okay.
Yeah.
That swung you. I know there's another reason that it swung you too. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so just the way that that first year is structured. So in Otago, there's no interview, and it's based on 7 papers. I think it's 7 papers. Whereas in Auckland, it's 4 papers. And with those 7 papers, though, in Otago, that's like every percentage counts. So if you're 99%, like that matters versus the 93% in an exam. Whereas in Auckland, everything above a 90% is an A plus, and that's like you don't have to worry about 91, 92, 93, 94. You get the 90, and that's good enough. So I thought that was like an important thing to think about, like because you can lose silly marks over little things that you just forget,
Yeah.
don't study, whatever. So that I feel like there's a bit more margin for error in Auckland and a bit more like diversity in terms of things that you could do to bring up or down your grade, interview, the papers, and the UCAT, whereas Otago just has the UCAT and those papers. And we could talk about all that in a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm just tracking back before we get there. So they paid for your halls, you said.
Yep. Yep.
What halls did you go to on the experience there before, because that's important too.
Yeah. So it was the new hall at the time, just opened. It's called Waipiruru Hall. It's quite big actually. There's like 800 or 900 people on there, if I remember correctly. And it was quite good. We're just on a floor. There's like 40 people, kind of just get to know them. I think it was only like 3 of us who were trying to get into med. And at the end of it, it was just 2 of us that got in. Um, but it was during the COVID year, so we kind of like, especially in Auckland, there was like the lockdown, and then that
Well,
kind of sucked in terms of not being able to
yeah,
fully get the whole experience. But it's just
yeah,
part of
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Um, okay. So you'd recommend that hall if people were considering it?
Yeah, yeah. There's like the good thing I think about that hall is the food. Like that's what differentiates it. Like there's like these 5 food stations. They're different cuisines. So one's like Italian, one's like New Zealand, one's like vegetarian, vegan, one's
That was where you were.
yeah, and one's something else. It was like Asian fusion, and you could just choose from any one of those on any night.
Oh,
Whereas every other hall just had one meal option. So I thought that was pretty cool.
cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So tell us, you go into first year, you get accepted. Probably not a big. Well, you still got to do really well to get accepted, but the
Yeah.
heats on that first year. What was your how did that go, and how? Yeah, what's the insights there?
Yeah, the first year is it's pretty difficult, like to be fair. So there's
Yep.
2 options for the first year program at Auckland. So there's like the biomedical option or health science, and they have different like requirements to get in. So they calculate what's called a rank score. That means they take your 5 UE approved subjects, so whatever your 5 UE subjects are, and they take your best 80 credits from them and calculate a rank score. So one excellence credit is a 4 rank score, one merit is 3 rank score, and achieved is 2. And if you get 280, then you'll get into biomed, and it's 250 to get into health sci. So health sci's a little bit of a lower requirement to get in. And then just for structure's sake, the biomed, what's different between the biomed and the health sci is you still have those 4 core papers are the same between the 2 courses, but it's those other courses outside of those ones that differentiate them. So the biomed one is more like biology and a physics paper. So if you don't like physics, don't do the biomed.
Yep.
And the health sci just has these kind of like other health sci papers. And health sciences, if you've done geography or something like that, it's kind of like that, but just with a healthcare, a population health context.
Oh, is there a preference, like, and I'm sure you get into it, but when you are having your rank score, like if you have a 280, do you automatically go like, oh, I'm going to do biomed because that might give me an advantage, like for the next year? Is there a like quote unquote better one?
Um, they said that there's not. They said there's no like selection bias between whatever course you take. So I just think if you don't like physics, don't don't do the biomed paper because like I topped physics in year 13 and I found it really difficult.
Mm.
So like, it is quite hard. And in that like part of the semester when you're doing that physics paper, you also have a really like important core paper as well that you need to study for. So if you don't like physics, don't. I would suggest to look at health science. Definitely. But no, there shouldn't be like a difference between the two because it's just based on those core papers. So as long as you pass those other papers, it doesn't matter as long as those core papers have a good grade.
But it could distract you. So if you are getting caught up on the physics one and it's taken away from that core paper, then that's where you have to think about where to lay your eggs.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just gotta know your like strengths and weaknesses as a student and choose accordingly. Yeah.
I remember your experiences with physics, Liam. I can have a laugh to myself. But when you went total excellence credits or trying to generate that total
Yeah.
of your 5 subjects, do they look at the disadvantage where some schools might only offer you 3 or 4 of the 5 or 6 papers? Because I know I'm reflecting on what you're saying. Kids are coming back to me as a teacher going, oh, have you got more to offer?
Yeah.
So there is some disadvantages in that within the schooling system that without you knowing it, you're not generating. Would that be right?
Yeah, I assume so. I mean, if you don't like take enough papers to get enough of a rank score, or if you drop a few in terms of like getting a lower grade, then sure, that definitely could be
Right.
it.
Yeah, sorry, those kids that play that game of getting an endorsement, so they only focus on that and they just don't sit a paper, that
Yeah.
could not be a good decision. And equally, a school only offering 18 credits or 16 could really jeopardize a kid's chances.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think 80 divided by 5. So as long as you get like 16 credits, so like that only takes 16 really. If you have 5 UE subjects, it'll just be 16 credits from each of those papers. So as long as you're kind of around that ballpark,
Okay.
you
So,
should be fine.
yeah, yeah, you should be fine. Okay.
But I'm not sure. I know NCA has changed, so I'm not really sure like how that affects everything.
No, no, level 2 and 3 hasn't, so it's probably still much the same. So how were your marks? How did you go in your first year? What are we talking?
At
Yeah,
high school or in
no, in your first year med, like what
oh
what
yeah.
marks were you getting?
Yep. So our one was really like weird because of COVID. So they like it was the first time that they'd ever done this. They had like open exams, 24 hours online. So like everyone
Yeah.
got A, right? You know, you kind of couldn't not get an A plus with that sort of leniency. But because of that, they had to institute something called the CST, which they made up this test. So in SEM1, there's 3 core papers, and in SEM2, there's the fourth one. And at the start of SEM2, they're like, well, everyone has an A plus. How can we differentiate, who's actually a good student? So they gave us an in-person test of all the papers that we'd done in SEM1, and they made the questions really hard. So I think like don't quote me, but I think the average was like a C something. So like everyone did pretty poorly. And in that CST, I got all A's. So that was good. Yeah.
Wait, you got all A's
In that one, in that
in the like
special test.
in
Yeah,
the intense one.
that they made up. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, that was good.
But that
And then
makes you can go to level 2. Is that how it works? Now
what's
you've
that,
got
sorry?
choice. So when you after first year, you've either
Yeah.
you had choices to move to second. Others are sitting there going, okay, plan B. I go somewhere. Is that what people's choices is after first year? Is that right?
Yeah, so at the end of the first year, you have your like grades, you apply, see if you get an interview, and you also sit this other test called the UCAT, which we can talk about. And if you don't get in, or if you don't get an interview, you can do other courses. So you could carry on with your science degree, you could change to engineering, law, whatever you're interested in, or you could go and apply for one of the other like medical things. So there's like medical imaging to become a radiographer.
Yeah.
There's optometry, there's pharmacy. I'm probably forgetting another
Oh,
one. Yeah, yeah, audiometry maybe. Um, and
yeah.
I
Actually,
think
we're going to
those,
get audiologist done. Yeah. Yeah. I think it
yeah,
is.
and I think for those you have to have done the biomed first year. So you'd have to double check that if you're interested in those courses. But I think you have to do biomed, at least for optometry, you have to do biomed.
Okay.
So you can't just do health site and get into one of those other ones as well.
Okay.
But I know a lot of people do that. They apply for medicine and all these other like ones as well, in case they don't get in. So they have like options.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you got the choice, so you moved on to second year.
Yeah. Yes. So I got into medicine, so I got to do that. So the way it works, so you do those 3 core papers in the first sem, and then that second core paper in the second sem, and then you sit the UCAT like between the first and second sem. The UCAT is this really stupid test that I absolutely hated. I thought it was completely ridiculous, but you have to do it anyway. Um, it's got these like 5 sections. So one of them is quantitative reasoning, which is like reading this big piece of, or not big piece, but this piece of text and then answering questions on it. And then there's like a maths version of that. There's this logic puzzle one, and there's some other section, and then there's one on like situational judgment, which is just kind of like medical ethics. And then they give you a score. But the thing that makes it really hard is not the questions, but like how much time pressure there is. So it's like 10, 20, 30 seconds like per question. You kind of got to just go through them super quick. It's 2 hours, and it's like the most locked in you've got to be for the 2 hours of your life. So it's quite challenging.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's only worth 15% of your total like medicine score. So each paper is worth 15%, and then the QCAT's worth 15%, and then the interview is 25.
Nice.
So 60% is from your grades, 15% from that UCAT, 25% from the interview.
What's the interview like?
Yeah, the interview again was different for us. It's usually in person. So there's like 8 stations, but for us it was online. The 8 stations. One of them's a rest station, and then you have like you're outside the interview room. You get 2 minutes to read the scenario, and then you kind of go in, and then they examine you for 8 minutes about it. So one of the stations is like an acting station. So you got to break this news to this person that their loved ones died, whatever. Like you've got to pretend to be the doctor, show them how you would do that kind of thing, have an empathetic approach. And then there's other stations that's kind of about you. Why are you interested in medicine? What are your strengths and weaknesses? What is like a scenario where you failed and how did you deal with that? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they kind of score you on that.
And you felt you went well in those sorts of scenarios with personality and
Yeah. You kind of got to like do a bit of thought before you go in there. Have these like situations in mind that are kind of broad and can be applied to lots of different things. You can like spin them in different ways once you like see the question, because you don't know exactly what the question is, but you kind of get a good idea. And if you have these kind of like general principles about who you are and some scenarios and things you can use, then I think you can do okay in it. You just kind of got to relate it a little bit deeper than surface level. Kind of give the assessor like a reason why you are the way you are and things like that. I think that's helpful.
So that is a different one. Sorry, just to clarify, Otago doesn't do the interview?
No, there no interview for them. Yeah.
No interview. So someone like me would love the interview because I feel like that's try to get my grades up or try to do this. So that I feel like that's a big takeaway already for someone listening is if you feel like you've got a bit more EQ and a bit more of that, you're a bit more confident in the situations like that. That could be a huge advantage of Auckland. You said though that it was different. Typically, it's supposed to be in person. For you with the COVID year, was that the Zoom?
Yeah, it was on Zoom, and I think they do it on Zoom now forever. So that's the way it is. Yeah, they liked it, and they just did that. Yeah,
cool.
What's the cutoff? The myth, I suppose, is like 80% are cut after first year. What are those cuts like? Like how brutal is it?
Yeah, it's pretty brutal way. I remember at the start of the year, at the first week, there was like 2,000 people across the 2 house I and Biomed. And then at the end of the first week, there was like half that. And then by the time you get applying to med, there was like 300 applying and then 100 general first year seats.
So just from existing in that first week or so, like before they've even decided to do a cull, people naturally filter themselves out of the program.
Yeah, because that first week, like even for me, it was quite eye-opening because you sit in there in this like I remember my first lecture, and the guy just goes through like 2 weeks of high school biology in an hour.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, here we go. Like this is what university is like. Like it's way more than high school. It is like significantly more information. It's not harder. It's just way more of it.
And so then I guess preparation helps too. But that's when if we're listening or we're in high school, you're thinking, oh, my friends are on O week, right? Because I'm practical. I'm someone who was going to the toga parties doing that. If you're like you and you're sat there thinking, I want to make it to this next year, then it's probably not going to be dressing up, going to the toga parties, hanging out as much. And that's totally okay. But that's something for people to factor in too, is that if you want to keep up, you're locked in compared to maybe some of your friends who are in different like different majors or degrees. It's something to really factor in.
Yeah, you're not doing a business degree. I mean, for me, like what I did in the summer before I started was actually studied up on those 3 core papers. So I kind of found the textbooks and information about the courses and like learnt pretty much all three of those papers before I went in. And when I was like in the lectures, it was kind of just like adding on those little cherries on top, little bits of information that I didn't quite get. So that was really helpful for me. Just like I pretty much knew the whole course before I went in there. That's not necessarily something I recommend to everyone. I mean, like I spent my whole summer studying for those papers. And it's not something you necessarily have to do, especially if you've done like chemistry and biology and you have like a good understanding of those NCA papers, or Cambridge if you did Cambridge before you went in. But like some of the Auckland schools, they actually, like in year 13, they run tutorials for their students about the papers in first year med. So there's other schools that are out there like really preparing their students to go through and compete. So you kind of got to find key advantages where you can, because it is hard. It is like challenging. It is competitive. And in terms of like the hours of what I would do, so I'd usually wake up at 7 a.m. and study, and then obviously like have lunch, your dinners and breakfast, go to lectures, come back and keep studying until like 10 o'clock at night, go to bed, and then just do it all again. And I do that 5 days a week. And then on the weekends, I just do my Anki cards. So Anki is like the software that you can create flashcards. And that's something I definitely recommend to everyone. It's all about spaced repetition. So you do a card and then 3 days later you do it again, and then it continues to space out, and your memory, like it does it in such a way that the card comes up just before you're like supposed to forget it. So you don't do it every day. It just continually spaces out, and you remember and retain that information. I think that's like a super important way that I studied, and a lot of other people studied, that works so well. And the thing with Anki is you shouldn't just be like typing up a card and then trying to learn it. You should like spend some time before you make the cards to actually really understand the content. Because if you don't actually understand the content and then you just like put it into a flashcard, you're not going to really retain it the same way as if you sat down, you mapped it out, you figured out actually what all this information was, why it works this way, and then you made the flashcard. It'll be much more valuable and powerful to your memory if you understand it first.
Yeah, and do you work with each other? Like, I understand it's very competitive. As an advantage potential, like, can you have study buddies? Are you by yourself all day? Like, what does that look like in terms of your fellow classmates?
Yeah, I had like a group of like 4 or 5 of us that we kind of worked together. We didn't like necessarily like study in the same space, but like we'd like ask each other questions, help each other out, that kind of thing. I think it's important to like have some others that are going through it with you, but you can 100% do it alone, like no doubt. So whatever kind of floats your boat. But yeah, definitely working with others. But I think it can get distracting if you're all in the same room trying to study. You know how that goes. You just don't study. Yeah.
Just like spinning yarns. So, all right, you get into the second year. What's the difference, or what's the step up? Like you said before, that first lesson, the first lecture, it's an hour of 2 weeks worth of high school. Like that's how much we're stepping up. From the first year to the second year, what's that step up feel like, content-wise, and also just your workload?
Yeah, so that's like, it's a similar amount of work, but there's just no pressure anymore, right? You're in medicine now. You can just pass. You can just do whatever you want. As long as you pass the papers, you're fine. So I think the workload is the same, but the pressure is gone, because once you're in, you kind of in. In terms of like the content of those, so the way the degree is structured, so you have the first year, and that's that pre-med year where you're competing with everyone. And then you've got, if you get into the program after that first year, you get 5 more years of medicine. So 6 years in total if you get in as a first year. And those second and third years, or the first 2 years of you actually being in the program, the preclinical years. So that's when you can like do the more like traditional uni stuff. You like learn the content, which I'll talk to you about in a second, all in like the lecture type of university-based area. And then the last 3 years of the degrees, 4, 5, and 6, is when you go out onto like clinical placement. So you'll be at a different hospital every year if you're on the Auckland site, or if you're in Dunedin, then you'll be at one hospital for 3 years. But you're kind of rotating around all these different departments. And in terms of the content for those first 2 preclinical years, you kind of just go through body systems. So what we did at Auckland, we started with like musculoskeletal. So you learn all of the anatomy of the musculoskeletal system and things that can go wrong. And then you do the same for digestive, same for cardiovascular, respiratory, genital, urinary, all that kind of stuff. And then at the same time, you have these things called labs, like HAL labs. And that's where you get a cadaver. You and a group of your friends, you get a cadaver and you go through with concurrent to each course. So if you're doing the musculoskeletal course, you'll be looking at arm, leg, different kind of muscle anatomy, and then same for heart, same for digestive, and you're kind of seeing it in a real person, dead person, but
That
yeah,
would
you're seeing real anatomy.
I'm sorry, I know we need to talk about the content, but jump on that for a second. The first time you see a cadaver, however you even say it,
Yeah.
what is that like? Like, I'm sorry to derail here for a second, London,
No,
but I'm
that's
curious. Like, do you prepare for that? I feel like that could be the stop for me right there.
yeah, fair enough. Like yeah, it's a bit weird, definitely. Like it's a bit strange. You've probably never seen a dead body before you go in and see your cadaver. But I feel like everything's very
How do we
respectful.
become one of those? Do we have to donate?
Yeah, you sign a form.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's very respectful. Like we cover the face and other areas and just kind of work on what we're working on. But yeah, it's a bit strange.
Confronting.
Yeah, yeah. But you kind of get used to it after a while.
Right. Yeah, that's taken us back.
Yeah, yeah. Just knocked you back.
Oh, there would have been some who struggled with that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think someone fainted in my year. I
Mm.
remember, but I think so.
Just in case I forget, you're talking about your pre and then your 5 years and all the rest of it and hospitals and all the rest of it. But you got a
Yep.
scholarship year one. But in case I
Yep.
forget, how did you pay for the rest? Because that would be the other thing a lot of people will be considering is this probably ain't a cheap course. How did you
Yeah.
go about it and where are you at?
So I didn't. Well, are you talking about the course fees?
Just
Everything.
funding your tertiary study, I suppose.
Yeah, I just got the student loan. So the course fees are very different to other courses. So if you like just doing a regular business degree or something, it'll be like 6 or 7 thousand a year, if I can remember correctly. But in medicine, it's like 19K a year. If you're a domestic student, and if you're an international student, it's 80 something thousand a year.
Yeah.
But your student loan covers all that, so they cover all the course fees, and then
Did
you
you
obviously
work in student loan or because the course is so intense, did you just really rack a lot of student loan up?
yeah, I got like 140K in student debt.
Boom.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think pretty much all of us do. It's just kind of the way that it works out. Because I also take out the living costs as well, which is like that weekly payment that you can get, and you have to pay that back. But look, that's kind of just the nature of it. You know, a lot of other universities around the world can cost like $80,000 to $90,000 in fees a year. So, I mean, in New
Right.
Zealand, it's pretty good, to be honest. And when you finish medicine, you pretty much guaranteed a job and a well-paying job, so it pays
Yeah.
itself off.
So talk about that. You're now year what? And where are you in terms of entering the system? Just so where
Yeah.
are you?
So I'm in my final year, so the 6th year, and in the hospital they call us a TI, so that's a trainee intern. So that year is a little bit different from all the other years because you get paid a little bit. So we get 20 something $1,000 tax free, like stipend from the government to do some work. We're supposed to do like a third or a fourth of the work of a house officer, which is the junior doctor.
Oh, yeah.
And we're still just on rotation. Like every 4 weeks, we're changing where we are. So this year I've done general surgery, which is kind of like abdominal stuff and trauma, and then ED, obs and gynae, which is like women's health and fetal medicine, and then I've done psychiatry and pediatrics, and then we do like GP general medicine, and what else? Elective. So that's where you can choose what you want to do for 8 weeks. So that's kind of what we do over the year, and we rotate through these different places, and we kind of stick with the junior doctors usually and kind of do what they do.
Yep. And what are you going to be? When I look up Liam in a few years, what are you, a doctor, a surgeon, or what are you?
Yeah, so I'll be a house officer, which is a doctor, and you do that for 2 years. So a house officer is kind of similar to a TI, but you just stay at a place for 3 months, and obviously you're a doctor. So every 3 months you still rotate through the different parts of the hospital that you choose. But you're, as I say, junior doctor, and what that means is you kind of take histories and examine like initial patients. You present them back to your bosses or the consultants, or your registrar, which is like the level below the consultant. You take notes, you prescribe stuff, you order investigations, you follow them up. You kind of do all like the grunt work, like the kind of admin work of the whatever department you're in. And then the person above the house officer, that's the registrar. So let's just say you're like a general surgeon registrar, and they'll be looking after all of the cases and making all the decisions. And if there's anything challenging, they'll present back to their boss, who's the consultant, and they'll consult with the registrar and work out a plan to manage those patients. But the consultant is ultimately responsible for all of those patients under their name, but the registrar kind of does most of the clinical decision making and just talks back to the consultant with any queries and things like that.
So you're about to enter that. When's your 7th year finish?
Yeah, so I'll finish in November this year.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And you said there was an 8-week elective. Is that at the end of the year? Has that happened or will that happen?
Yeah, so for me, so we get 3 weeks of vacation this year. So that's right now for me. I'm just starting it today and for the rest of the next 3 weeks. And then I got my elective. So I've chosen to do split it in half. So for 4 weeks, I'm going to be with respiratory at Waikato Hospital. So that's like the lungs and stuff. And I've done like a lot of work with them over summer, doing like summer research studentships. So I've got a few like publications out of that. So I want to work with them on like the clinical side, see what they actually do for a job rather than just the research side. And then another half, I'm going to do sports medicine and see what they do as well. So, yeah.
Fascinating. With the sports medicine, where's that going to be?
That's going to be at Anglesey and Hamilton as well. But for my vacation, I'm going over to Europe. So, yeah, and a bit of... Because most people go overseas for their elective. They like go to Africa, they go to Italy, they go to some random like place. No, they go to the UK. They do some sort of medicine over there. But I kind of wanted to do it in Hamilton because that's where I want to work and kind of like build up a little bit of that rapport connection with the people there. And I thought I'd just use the vacation to do the traveling. So,
can I ask, Liam, you've got this 140K student loan.
Yep.
What sort of income do you enter at, and how quickly does that progress up?
Yep. Yeah, sure. So in New Zealand, you can actually look it up. It's all publicly available. There's 2 unions that doctors can join if they want. So there's Stones and RDA, and they both have different sort of pay scales. They're not significantly different, but one is more pay, more hours, and one is a little bit less pay but more time off. And you can kind of decide between the two. And it all depends on the category of your run. So if you're on a general surgery run, that run will get a category based on the number of hours that you work per week. So the category is from like A to F, and every 5-hour interval it changes. So 40 to 45 hours is F, and then it continues up like that until A, which is like 65 plus or something. And I think from the top of my head, it's like 110-ish for a category C run. So that's like 50 hours a week. Yeah.
Yep.
That's kind of where it starts off, about 100 to 110-ish. and then it kind of progresses 10, 20-ish thousand per year from there. But that's only if you stay as a house officer. Then you get a new job if you want as a registrar, and then you'll be on a different pay scale. And then again, as a consultant, you'll be on a different pay scale as well. And it's, I mean, obviously everyone talks about Australia, but Australia, obviously, they do make quite a bit more money. I mean, if you're a consultant, which is like the top level in Australia, your pay scale, the bottom rank of your pay scale starts above the top rank of the New Zealand pay scale.
Wow.
So it's like significantly more money.
And that's a consideration, or you're not really interested in money at this point?
Oh yeah, of course it's a consideration. Yeah. Yeah,
No.
definitely a consideration.
Which is the sad reality of where our country's in terms of that competitive. We've got to keep people like you, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's always like, when you become a boss, you can do private work as well if your specialty has private stuff. So there's other avenues to make money, and yeah, it's not like the final decision. You know, there's a lot of other things in life. I remember I wanted to be a neurosurgeon before I got into medical school, and then I realized that training to be a surgeon sucks in terms of the hours, and I don't want to do that anymore. So kind of changed the tune there. Yeah, you kind of just like realize that you don't want to, well, I don't want to work my whole life like in a hospital 70, 60 hours a week. And obviously when you become a consultant, it's not like that. But when you're a registrar, it's kind of like the prime of your life, you know, you're in your late 20s, early 30s. And it's like, it's a thing you have to think about. You're working weekends, nights, all these sort of things.
Yeah.
What,
As well.
sorry, Liam, was there any
Yeah.
stage, like, you have been putting in the mahi, you've been doing, like, this is 7th year, like this, we're in it. If at any point, like once you get into that second year, like you said, you're in,
Yep.
Yay. Have you seen, obviously you stuck it out, did you have classmates that on year 3, 4 or 5 went, actually, I want to pivot and I want to do something else? Is that a route that they can do, or are you a little bit too locked in?
Yeah, that is definitely a route. I think the highest dropout rate is in 4th year. So that's when you like start your clinical rotations, and a lot of people drop out then. Or not a lot of people, but like that's, if you're going to drop out, that's kind of usually when it happens. And there's a pathway to like still get a degree. So you can do like a 1 year further of this like research thing, and you get like a research degree, like a biomedical science research thing. And you can also like take a year off if you want. And you can also like take a year off and do another like research thing. So you'll come out with 2 degrees at the end of it as well. So there's like lots of different pathways. And there's also people who are like, I'm doing medicine, but I don't want to be a doctor. So I'm kind of just like getting through, and I'm applying for all these like finance jobs, and I'm going to go and do finance as soon as I finish my degree. So there's like lots of things that you can do.
Interesting. Is there anything, and love them same for you, that you feel like, I mean, we've tried to squeeze in essentially 7, 8, 9 years of your life from when you started thinking doctor to where you're at now. What's something that we didn't bring up, or Ludlam that we haven't asked, that you feel like would be good to know?
Yeah, I think it's just really important to think about why you want to be a doctor, if that's what you want to do. Like if you decided, yeah, I want to go into medicine, it's just like really important you think about why, because it is like, it's a challenging lifestyle. You know, there's a lot of times I'm like, well, what have I done with myself? Like, why am I doing this? Yeah, it's like you should talk to people who are in the field and just be prepared to like work like reasonably hard, because like you go to work, right, and then you come home and you actually have to study as well. Like it doesn't just end when you finish it, you know, when you get home from work, it's still going on. And it's not like you don't have a life, like you still do, but it's just not the same as your peers who don't do medicine. But there's also a lot of rewards that people in medicine get that I guess other people might not get. So
I see a lot of kids, Liam, that's possibly the thing they need to consider. You're at school, learning's pretty easy-ish.
Yep.
Teacher works hard, you participate, but going to that tertiary study is the first time you've got to really want to learn yourself. And I think when you're talking flashcards, you're looking pre-summer before it's a whole nother level of fascination in the subject. It's not, oh, I loved the teacher and I'll go study that. It's another, and I think people need to, the kids need to comprehend it. You've got to be so deeply invested in gaining that knowledge. And it is, it's a weird thing. I think a lot, maybe first year, you were saying the ones that dropped out suddenly were sitting there looking around going, well, this wasn't bio in level 3 at Auckland Grammar. This is different because I'm now working hard and it's on me. Would that be right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You definitely got to have like a drive within yourself. No one is there to help you along. Like no one's going to give you a prod. If you don't show up to class, nobody cares. That's fine. You don't show up, whatever. So you really have to be dedicated and want to do it, because there's a lot of days like in pre-med or just in med once you get in as well that are just hard. Like the content's hard. You don't understand it. You have to go home and study it, and then you have to wake up and go to your placement or whatever at 7 a.m. the next day. So like, yes, it's challenging. So definitely like think about why, and if you're not thinking that way, like if you don't know if you can commit, then maybe you should think about other things. Like, and if money is something that you care a lot about, like maybe medicine's not for you, because if like you make money, but it's definitely not the best way to make money. There's like significantly better, easier ways to make much more money. And if prestige is your thing, like you're going to be the bottom of the ladder for a very long time. So if that's what you care about, then maybe look somewhere else as well.
So overall, though, from your experience, you're recommending the journey you've been on. Like it also gives you value and it gives you something. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I feel like I've grown a lot as a person doing medicine, because just like its nature, and not just from like the academic stuff. Like I feel like in high school I kind of like got a good grip on the academic stuff, and I proved that in first year, like, and I understood that I can do that. That was fine. But there's a whole lot of other skills in medicine that is just not academic, and you don't really, I guess, appreciate until you're there. Like all these people skills, these talking skills, lots of like colleague skills that you kind of pressure skills that you don't really get taught in high school. And like when I started medicine, we were like part of the program is all these clinical skills that we learned throughout. And I remember I was like really like, man, this sucks. This is hard. This is really challenging. But it's just nice to like look back now and see like I've actually progressed a lot and like become a lot more confident with all of these things. So I think it really like allowed me to, just be a more confident person in terms of my skills, and have like a nice skill set that can be applied to a lot of different areas. So you learn a lot of things about yourself, about others, not just medicine, which I think is quite cool. And there's so many like pathways. Like once you finish your degree, you can do whatever you want. You can do research if that's what you're into. You can go do finance. You can do something completely different. You can pharmaceuticals, and then obviously medicine itself. There's so many pathways. So you got lots of options. Like you're never really stuck doing something. You can always change it up.
Cool. And just in case I forget, because I probably won't say any more before Grace wraps it up, but what I like from the old teacher hat is the Miss Webb part of your story, because I've got a similar event in my schooling that as a young man and as an annoying child and all the rest of it, you probably weren't at the extreme I was maybe, but having that point in time where someone stops to say you can do better is a really important thing. And I think as teachers, if there's teachers listening to this, that pulling aside, not in a class situation, that one-on-one, it resonated with you. And she was dead right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you remembered it.
No, it was super cool. Having those kind of just say, come on, mate, you can do better than that.
It's wicked.
That was cool. Another thing I remember from school, Miss McKinnon, she at the end of year 13, she was like wrapping something up at one of the assemblies, and she announced to the whole school that I was going to be a doctor. I was like, oh, this is the worst. She just like proclaimed that I was going to get into medicine, and then I had all this pressure. I was like, this is crazy.
She backed you.
Yeah, she did.
Wicked.
That's
Great. So finish it up.
Yeah, Liam, thank you so much. I think there's a lot of tangible, practical things people listening will take. If people are curious and want to reach out, are you open to fielding any
Yeah,
questions?
absolutely. And some resources, if like people are interested in what grades they need to use or like what need to get, is look up online FYI. It's like a New Zealand website where you can like request information and just search in MBCHB, which is the degree, URA, and you can find all the entrance stats for like people who got in and didn't and the grades and whatever. If you're interested in that, to kind of like gauge yourself. And then obviously, yeah, I'm happy for people to ask me questions. That's no problem.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you. Our last question, and this isn't to do with the generic people who could be listening. This is a moment for you to reflect. If you could go back to your 16, 17-year-old self, what advice would you give you?
That's good. I think I tell myself not to worry so much about things. Always worrying about, am I going to get it? Am I going to do this? Is this and that? Just kind of like figure out what you want to do, set a goal there, and then just kind of figure out the steps and forget about it and just work towards that. Don't worry about what's going to happen here, there. Like, there's always a way you can pivot and figure something out. And worrying doesn't really like make it any better. It doesn't change anything. Just degrades your experience. So I don't know how you do that, but that would be good advice. Yeah.
Good life goal.
Yep.
Yeah, great life goal. Well, as we said, and I hope you really understand our enthusiasm to have you on as a part of the guest speaker and contributing towards this mission of what we're doing. I feel like we didn't even really touch upon it, but clearly you're a community person. You've been giving back for a long time, reaching out to students already. So from Ludlam and I and all the listeners, we really, really appreciate you spending your time with us and have fun in Europe as well.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. It was great. I enjoy it. So
yeah. No, yeah, look, this is about the third or fourth time you've helped me out. And I think that speaks volumes for the sort of people we want in that industry, I suppose. It's that doctor we might turn up to who maybe just sits and listens, before prescribing some medication is a real classic. But yeah, like really proud to see where you've got to. And thank you for your support. That's gold. And good luck with everything you do.
thank you. And I appreciate that. It's been good.